Hello, hello. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here at the 2024 MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. My name is Grant Anhorn, and I'm a first-year MBA student here at MIT Sloan. I could not be more excited to introduce our golf panel today, Growing the Game, How to Cultivate and Strengthen Golf Fandom. We have some amazing panelists. We're going to start with Chris Solomon. He's the co-founder at No Laying Up. Krista Olson, she's the VP of Marketing at the LPGA. Travis Trembath, the VP of Fan Strategy and Experience at the PGA Tour. Fahad Zahid, the Head of Brand and Digital Marketing at PGA of Americas. And then our panel will be moderated by Claire Rogers, the Senior Social Media Manager at golf.com and Golf Magazine. So little logistics here is for 45 minutes that we'll be running the discussion. Throughout that, please feel free to submit questions through the Cadence app. And then we'll make sure that the last 10 minutes, you're able to get some of those questions answered. But with that, let's pass it over to you, Claire.
Thanks, Grant. Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Rogers. Thanks for coming. We have a lot of golf fans here. We're really excited to talk about cultivating and strengthening golf and golf fandom. Can we just go around one more time? Sully, I'll start with you to introduce yourself and say what you do.
Yep, my name's Chris Solomon. I am one of the co-founders of the brand called No Laying Up. We do a golf podcast. We do media network, merchandise, all that kind of stuff. Been doing it for about 10 years now, and excited to talk with you guys today.
Hi everyone, I'm Krista Olson. I'm the VP of Marketing for the LPGA. I'm new to the LPGA. I've been there about 11 months. Oversee fan engagement, brand, paid advertising, retail marketing, and creative.
Hi all, Travis Trembath. I'm the VP of Fan Strategy and Experience for the PGA Tour. So my group oversees all the research and insights, analytics, customer experience functions for the tour.
Hi everyone, Fahad Zahid. I run brand and digital marketing for the PGA of America. Our team oversees all of our branding aspects and promoting all of our championships and our over 30,000 members.
Awesome. And I am the social media manager at golf.com/golf magazine. So let's start talking about just kind of the boom that golf experienced during COVID-19 and how maybe each of you capitalized on that moment. Fahad, I'll kick it off with you.
Great topic. Obviously, PGA of America was instrumental in working with the CDC at the time. You think about golf outside, social distancing. So as we looked at opportunities to work with the CDC and get people to go out and exercise and socialize in a safe manner, we were pretty instrumental in getting that as one of the approved activities to kind of back to golf and getting people out there. And since then it's sort of sustained. And I know, Solly, you've got some hot takes on barriers to entry in golf, but we're trying to do our best to make sure it's welcoming and it's opening to everybody.
Awesome. Sully, what about you?
Well, it was a very weird time period, of course, for us when pro golf shut down for 3 months, and we saw our downloads go like this because commutes stopped, and it turns out people being in their cars going to work was really a good thing for our business, but it came roaring back. A lot more people got back out to the golf course, and I think what's unique about golf is there's a relationship with the game that comes from playing it and the link to the professional game that doesn't exist in a lot of sports. I watch the NFL. I am not physically capable of playing any version of football anymore, and that's kind of, it goes for a lot of other sports other than golf. Almost everyone that watches it on television likes to play the game. So that natural link that, between the people that either got reintroduced back into golf that maybe gave it up for a while or tried it for the first time when COVID happened can bleed into all aspects of, the highest level PGA of America, the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, all kinds of golf around the world. So we saw that boom happen almost immediately. It was the first sport to come back in the U.S. at least when they came back at the Colonial in June of 2020. And we've seen, golf rounds are still way up compared to the pre-pandemic era as we sit here in 2024. And that's obviously a great thing for the sport.
Awesome. We think about golf and sometimes think of the stereotype of a golf fan as an old white male. How do you think that has changed and is changing over time, Fahad? And then, Chris, I'm really interested to hear about the LPGA's kind of take on that.
We do? Shocker. No, the stereotype is real, and I think that's one of the challenges. There's a barrier to entry in golf, whether it's time, whether it's financial related. It's not cheap. Obviously, to buy a set of clubs, get lessons, access is an issue. But I think, back to what Solly's saying, we saw this golf boom during COVID. And then post-COVID, you look at the NGF and all the data that they have, and the rounds are up. Like every year they're going up. We're at a record high right now. It's 45 million golfers in America. And for the first time ever, what we've done is to kind of combat that is embrace the non-on-course golfer. So your top golfs, your putteries, things like that, Drive Shack, that's an easier barrier to entry than going to an 18-hole course, right? So the whole point is you get people introduced in golf at a top golf, and we call this thing called shot euphoria, which is like you swing, and you hit that ball that one time, and it goes super far, and you're hooked, right? That's what we're banking on. And then someone might be then interested in getting lessons and then graduating to on-course. So in terms of the perception, there's multiple ways to overcome that. We do think the off-course barrier to entry is a lot easier. It's an entry point that anyone can do. And of course, we have a ton of programs, our Junior League program, our PGA Works program that really goes after youth and underprivileged minorities and things like that. I think about the Krista, like the biggest thing that I've seen is one of the biggest segments of golfers that's increasing in America is women. And that's been awesome, right? It's like a 45% increase year over year, which is fantastic. So I guess we're doing something right. We've got a ways to go, but I think we're doing something right.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I mean, the LPGA and the LPGA Foundation and our partnership with Girls Golf and the USGA, one of the amazing stats that we were able to report this past year is we've officially hit 1 million girl participation, and so we have a campaign going for this season for 1 million more. And I think that's just a testament to the investment that all of us have been a part of in terms of growing the game, really getting equity across both men and women, boys and girls, and just super excited to continue to grow that this season. I think, certainly the investment from our side in player storytelling and really amplifying who our players are so that girls can see and have people that can be role models for them in the sport is tremendously important for us this coming season.
So just one more thing to add to that. I think the Tour, LPGA, the USGA and the PGA of America have come together and really honed in on that with Make Golf Your Thing. And we've all invested really like monetarily and efforts with volunteerism. So that's another thing that all the governing bodies of golf have come together to grow the game.
Awesome.
I would just add, I think there's kind of from a fan perspective a misconception maybe out there about who golf fans really are, and there's sort of a generational divide in terms of how fans consume sports at this point. And you've got your kind of older traditional fans who do skew older, consume mainly on television, and then you've got Gen Z fans that are social and streaming first. And I think a lot of the misconceptions are formed based on kind of that television audience, and the reality is like that's just the older people that are actually using that platform. So we like to focus on more of a cross-channel perspective, and if you look at like the median age of social media followers for the tour, it's around 31, so it paints a little different picture.
So here's a really cool fact. Sally, you probably know this. There are 45 million golfers in America. There's 50 million people that follow golf on social media. So like there's still like 5 million people that are following golf that don't really play golf, and that's because golf has also kind of become a brand. Jordan brand, obviously the stuff that you guys are doing at No Layup, Eastside Golf, things like that have made it a little cooler, right? So for a younger audience to really resonate with that.
Well, I think what we've seen over the last several years is almost, I call them like offshoots of green grass golf, what's referred to as green grass golf, which is what the game has traditionally been for hundreds of years, which is typically 18 holes played on grass, which there's a lot of challenges that come with, our real estate prices in any country, are they going up or are they going down? They're going up. So greens fees are going up. The time it takes to play rounds of golf is enormous. But what we've seen happen is these offshoots of, my favorite thing about Topgolf is you can take anyone there. And the best thing is when you hit a bad shot, you do not have to go chase it. You don't have to go, that's the most frustrating part about golf. It's why people, I love my wife dearly, but she's not the greatest golfer, and she gets really intimidated going out to a golf course where she's got to go chase the result of her shot. Yet there's many different ways that people can enjoy the game and not have to, kind of circumvent some of the frustrations that come with it. Some of us sickos, we live for those frustrations, and we stay up at night trying to, solve the unsolvable puzzle that is the game of golf. But there's many different ways it can be enjoyed, and that's what we've, you could probably speak to this, Fahad, mostly, but that's what has really taken off in the last 5 to 10 years is non-green grass golf. And I think for a while, golf, leaders in golf were really trying to convert these people to green grass golf, and I think now we've kind of reached a point where we're getting more and more comfortable with saying that this is, an offshoot of golf that people can enjoy, and that doesn't mean you have to go play it outside on the green grass.
I think our audience needs to know what a golf sicko is.
We get a definition.
Yeah. It could be a lot of things.
So this past December, we had the Grant Thornton Invitational where men and women professional golfers competed together for the first time. In terms of women's visibility in the sport, can you talk about what the LPGA is doing and kind of how also that event came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest talking point coming out of Grant Thornton and even from this past weekend's match or past Monday's match is that people want more of it. There wasn't anything negative other than we want to see more of this. And I think that, again, is just a testament to where the sport is going, and I think the support from both men and women for each other of wanting to be playing together, involved together, that it's a different skill set in a sense, but the finesse that the women's game brings, I think, is incredibly important. Certainly as we continue to have the Grant Thornton events and more things like, the match and, again, storytelling, I think our players is incredibly important. So people know Lexi Thompson as much as they know Rory, and they know Rosang as much as they know Max. Giving people personalities and having them be a part of, social media fodder and just being more pop culturally relevant is incredibly important, I think, to us this season. You're seeing it across every single sport, Caitlin Clark and Angel and so on and so forth. And I think that's, important for us as women to be just as acknowledged and part of the conversation as every other male golfer is as well.
I could say with personal experience too, I went to my first LPGA event probably in 2018, and the takeaway I had from that, and I've said this a million times on our show, is just if you want to get better at golf, for the male viewers, if you want to get better at golf, you're not better off watching the PGA Tour. They do things physically that, unless you're training your body, 7 days a week, you're not going to be capable of. If you want to learn how to control and understand tempo and how you can approach the game in a recreational way, watch the women play, because it will blow your mind. I mean, I've played in pro-ams where I've hit it 60, 70 yards past the players, and they will beat me by at minimum 10 shots because they're so in control of their golf ball. And it's a skill that the skill level is so impressive. And at LPGA events, it's typically more accessible. The players are more accessible. They're kind. If you're a young girl and you go up to the ropes during tournament play, chances are Nelly Corda is going to come up and say hi to you. Like, it really is an awesome experience. So for anyone, we always tell anyone that has young kids and they want to get them ingrained into golf, take them to a women's golf tournament, because the opportunities, I still think that there's just massive unrealized potential in the women's game. And just to see the talent up close has been one of the biggest takeaways I've had doing this job for the last 6 years.
I think that's important too, is that, like you mentioned your wife, I think especially women, we get, especially with golf, nervous about not being good enough, whereas I would say my partner, my friends, my dad, you never think twice about going out on the golf course and being bad, whereas women are constantly oh my gosh, if I'm not exceptional at this, I'm not gonna play. And I think that's what we're trying to kind of break that as well, of that it's more accessible, that you can go out and play 9 holes and just have fun. And we're doing partnerships with Walmart where there's affordable clubs. And again, just the access to the game, I think, is one of the most important things for us to just continue to hone in on, from brand and fan engagement, because I agree, the experience is amazing and it's fun and it's approachable, and I think it's affordable, and it brings, I think, a different perspective to having worked in a multitude of sport. It's definitely a better price point, I think, that kind of gets people into the ecosystem.
Solly, can you talk a little bit about the No Laying Up fan base, why it's unique, and how you think it's maybe different from the regular tour fan base?
Yeah, so we, just a quick background, we kind of started this podcast or whatever we do maybe 10 years ago as a hobby, and we had no plans on it ever going anywhere. And we kind of backed into it becoming more popular than we ever would imagine, and backed into it being a full-time job. And when, we were kind of doing it for fun, we were kind of just throwing whatever up against the board, seeing what stuck and what didn't, and without really any real strategy. We got very lucky. We worked really hard, but we got very lucky. And it took kind of all of us to start doing it full time, to start thinking about how do you take a little bit, we all had experience in the corporate world and the business world, how do you take a little bit of what you've done there and apply it to this thing that on the outside you're trying to make appear fun, off the cuff and very candid conversations, yet you need a little bit of structure around it. So it came back to, for us, which was coming up with an actual mission statement, which when I was like 29 and doing, I did not want to have a mission statement. The golf was supposed to be my release from that, but it was to inform and entertain, avid golfers worldwide. And that was to, you kind of comb over every word of that to say like, all right, avid golfers means strong, like people that are very into the sport, right? We're not necessarily trying to reach the casual viewer as much. If they get into the ecosystem, that's great, but that's been a great guiding light for, we make our stuff for, as we say, the golf sickos, right? The people that are into it, that can't get enough of it. I mean, if you're gonna listen to us break down, minor league leaderboards at the end of our show, you're a golf sicko, like that's what you are. So understanding that and understanding how people can be drawn to personalities in who they listen to or who they watch online. The YouTube Golf Network that has happened over the past 10 years or whatever, we're a minor part of that, is absolutely massive. There's way more options to watch golf and be entertained by golf than just, when I was growing up, my option was to flip on CBS or NBC and watch the end of a golf tournament. But now you can log on and watch almost any major golf course in the world somewhere has groups of people that go out and film it and make it their own entertaining product. So it's a very new way of reaching people, and I think people were still learning a lot about the space and what the potentials of it all are. But for us, understanding who our listener was really helped us kind of hone in on what kind of content we want to make, who we want to make it for, and it's worked for us. It's worked great, and it's been kind of seeing the fruits of that have been really encouraging to want to keep doing how we're doing it.
So we've seen this huge boom in YouTube golf. And on Monday, there will be 16 YouTubers trying to qualify for a PGA Tour event. Travis, can you kind of tell us how that idea came to be and what you're expecting the merging of those two very specific fan groups to look like?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So exactly that, 16 YouTube golfers, one-round shootout. Winner gets a sponsor's exemption into the tour event. And then the creators will kind of share the content on their platforms, and we'll produce a 1-hour video that'll go out on YouTube in April, kind of documenting the qualifier. But as you mentioned, YouTube Golf's exploded. It's a young, golf passionate audience and a really important one for the PGA Tour. And as we think about, how do we grow and diversify and expand our fan base, that's kind of in our sweet spot in terms of audience. I would say the thing that's important here is like reaching that audience in a really authentic way, right? It's not us like pushing highlights of, PGA Tour events, but it's really meeting them where they are and engaging them with the type of content that we know they'll be interested in. By the way, like all of these guys can play. So we have a regulation where you have to be like a scratch golfer or better to get any type of exemption. So there's no hacks out there. All these guys are very capable, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun just to see how it all plays out. And I hope we see more of this kind of thing in the future. And Solly, actually, I'm wondering, why are you not? I feel like you're not a YouTube golfer.
I did not get invited to that one. I did not.
Really?
No, you're saying
Must
that.
have got lost in the
I
mail.
could have qualified for that.
Yeah.
Are you going to break down these golfers though, Sully? Like,
what's that?
Like a golf sicko, you're going to break these guys down? And
We might. I think it's a wonderful idea. It is. I mean, if you look at pro sports in general, at its core, they're entertainment businesses, right? They're meant to be entertained, and when you have, the entire network of things that are available for people of my age, I'm 37, of anyone that's younger, you have so many options on how to spend your time. Like it is, if you want to watch Netflix, that's not going to be commercially interrupted. If you want to watch any number of platforms, that's what sports are competing with for your time. And steering into the entertainment aspect of that in this one small way. Again, you have this very popular thing that's happening online. The relatability of whoever makes it through that, I'm going to guess, is going to miss the cut by a lot. And that's going to give you the appreciation for the talent of the players that you see on your screen, which is enormous. It's really hard. The hardest part of my job is trying to relate to people like just how talented these people are. The best golfer you've ever seen in person would get absolutely smoked by the 200th best golfer on the PGA Tour. And merging those two worlds, I would love to see the golf world continue down that path of merging what, kind of taking what seems to be popularized in kind of pop culture today into the professional game. Steph Curry has taken exemptions into pro sporting, and it's wildly entertaining. And some people have issues, with them taking up a spot from a pro, but I tune into the leaderboards of those events to see how he's doing, and that is a great thing that, I think I like to see the tour going in that direction.
Waiting for Tony Romo to make it.
Tony Romo, again, he shot a 70 or a 71 in a PGA Tour event.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's hard to like really relay how impressive that is.
So YouTube is one entry point. I'm curious what each of you kind of are thinking about for other entry points and how you're capitalizing on those. I'll start with you, Fahad.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, right? Entry points with everything that we're doing from a Make Golf Your Thing perspective. Having these organizations come through and people volunteering their time from each organization, and really the genesis of all this is to have what we call sticks in hands, right? So like get people to start playing golf. We talked about off-course golfers and at Top Golf and things like that. But through a lot of our programs, the First Tee is running a program to get people in. We've got Junior League. We've got our PGA Works Collegiate Championship, which is really aspiring a lot of our young HBCU historically communities to start playing the game. We have a new one called Places to Play, which is one of the things that's hard to do is find real estate, right? Find a place to play golf that's a public course, that's affordable, that looks nice, it's maintained, and Places to Play is going to kind of serve as that. We're sort of launching that this year. But really, like the stuff that everyone's doing up here, like the content that's being churned out on No Layup, the content that from the match, introducing women's sports into the match, all this is content that consumers are then consuming and saying, I might want to try this, right? It has to be an overarching thing. It just can't be like the PGA of America has got this one program that's going to get people to start playing golf. It's got to be a culmination of it all.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd say from a tour perspective, like the link between participation and fandom is really, really strong. Like of our 8 million core fans, 85% of them play more than 10 rounds of golf a year. 98% of them play at least once a year. So I think capitalizing on those trends and converting those participants into fans is a huge part of our strategy. And then just from a content standpoint, actually, I saw this slide from our media team last week, and it was just this like monstrosity of logos that showed like all the different platforms that have some type of tour content. And so I added them up, and the tally was 67. So there's literally, which was mind-blowing to me, that there are 67 different platforms that carry tour content. And so we sort of look at each of those in a different way, and we have some that are meant as kind of top of the funnel, new fan generating platforms, and others that are really trying to, deliver like deeper, more immersive experiences to those core fans to encourage more engagement. And so, yeah, there's a lot, and each of those has varying levels of data that we get, but we do try to use that data to the best that we can to really stitch together profiles and understand kind of the broader ecosystem and get a more holistic picture of kind of how our fans are engaging from casual fans all the way down to the most core of the core.
So we were talking about yesterday, No Laying Up. You have various podcasts, you have video content, all this stuff. Can you talk a little bit, Solly, about the content strategy behind that? You're kind of racing the clock on what's relevant as well when you're talking about things happening on the tour. So what does that look like for No Laying Up?
Yeah, it's funny, but before I got into this business, I remember talking to a writer friend of mine, and he, asked him about his career, and he said, it's a nice career, but what I've done for myself is I've created unfinished homework for life. I was like, oh man, that sounds horrible. And so when I got into this business, I did it for about a year, and I was like, man, I really got to turn out like, oh my gosh, I've done that. I've created unfinished homework for life on this job, because the content, it never stops. The pro golf doesn't stop, especially. So, we do our best to try to stay really engaged with our audience into what is the most interesting. What we've found amazing is we do a Sunday night recap show talking about everything that happened this past week in the game of golf, and somehow that can be a more popular show than if I sat down with Jordan Spieth or some of the top players in the game. Like that's our fans telling us they like us joking and making fun of each other, and more so than necessarily an interview thing. So you have to kind of be reacting to what kind of feedback you're getting from your fans. You also have to be an understanding of what feedback matters to you, right? As our network grows bigger and bigger, it starts reaching people that maybe aren't fans of us, that might give us some very, very negative feedback, which has happened a lot over the last couple of years for other reasons that we probably don't have time to get into today. But, you know, does that feedback matter, or does it, if I have my partners in my ear saying, no, keep pursuing this, that's going to matter a lot more to me than some random comment on Twitter. So being really in touch with our audience and how we, you know, it's something we do every single year. We survey our audience to say, like, all right, what's your biggest pet peeve about what we're doing? Where do you, you know, what shows do you listen to? Why do you listen to this? What are your favorites? And blah, blah, blah. Give us kind of all of your feedback. We review it, and we kind of make our decision and our plan for the year based on that feedback. And it's something that we're pretty proud of, because it'd be pretty easy to kind of, with the success we've been fortunate enough to have, to kind of rest on a little bit of that. But every single year we review it to say, and almost every year we chop off the bottom 2 things that we're doing that aren't really resonating with people and find 2 new things to do to hopefully reach and engage with people. And the industry is changing every single year. One change we've made in the last couple of years is from audience demand has been to take our show and do it live on Sunday nights for around the biggest weeks in golf. And it took a little technological investment and a little bit of a change of the luxury of editing capabilities on the show. It's a little bit more intimidating when bright lights go on. Hope your internet doesn't cut out at your house. Hope my 6-month-old doesn't plug the internet out of the wall or whatnot. But it was something that was asked for, and it's been you know, a way we've been able to reach our audience on a more consistent basis, and something we've really enjoyed.
So Drive to Survive had a huge impact on the fan base of F1. We've seen something similar with Full Swing, which season 2 comes out this upcoming week for anyone who's looking forward to that. But Travis, I'm wondering if you could talk about the impact that you've seen on the fan base after the first season of Full Swing.
Yeah, pumped for season 2. We all know about Netflix, you know, and their tremendous reach, you know, 190 countries, I think 230 million subscribers. You know, and really help the tour kind of get our players and our product in front of fans in really a very different way, and a different set of consumers. And so, yeah, it's been very exciting. Like, a couple of quick facts, 60% of the viewers of Full Swing were between the ages of 25 and 54, so helping us reach that younger audience. 63% of the viewers watched a PGA Tour telecast within 2 months of seeing Full Swing. And to me, the most important fact, there were 11% of the viewers who had not watched a PGA Tour event in the 6 months prior to Full Swing, and then tuned in after watching, in the 2 months after watching Full Swing. So a nice boost to our overall audience, and really helping us kind of hit that younger demographic, and a great win for the players that were featured as well. Joel Damon and Tony Finau, I think, were 2 of the biggest kind of breakout stars from season 1. So excited to see what happens here with season 2.
So again, Travis, there are now 1.5 of the $3 billion investment into the PGA Tour from the Strategic Sports Group. How is that going to go into, you know, growing the game and growing the value of the PGA Tour?
Yeah, so exciting time for golf fans and for the tour. I will say, in my 13 years at the tour, I have never seen this much momentum internally behind, you know, really improving the fan experience. We just had a board meeting on Monday, and a big portion of that was dedicated to talking about who our fans are. You know, what do they want to see in terms of improving the experience? What are they saying about the current state of the golf ecosystem? And that's never happened before at the board level. So the first $1.5 billion was essentially earmarked for player equity, which I think in itself is a pretty revolutionary idea. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but one of them is we want the players to feel more invested in improving the fan experience. We know from our research that fans love things like walk and talks on the course, or, you know, if there's a way to get closer to the players and hear the player caddy conversations, those things are really compelling to fans. So we think kind of making players equity owners, we hope will get them to kind of lean into more of those things in the future. And then the other $1.5 billion, crazy number, has been like vaguely earmarked for product enhancements. And I think the thing to be clear about is like this is not a donation to the tour or to the game of golf. Like SSG, the private equity firm that we're working with, expects a return on this investment. And so if you really like step back, you know, how do you increase the valuation of the tour? There's only really a few ways that you can do it. You can either get more engagement out of your current fans. You can find new fans and pull them in, and both of those things kind of prop up our sponsorship and media rights valuations. You can invest in new businesses, or you can make the tour more efficient and cut costs. And I fully expect that, you know, the $1.5 billion will be invested across all four of those areas, and it'll be a very kind of deliberate process. We've started with really understanding like some of the existing pain points from an experience standpoint with our current fans, but we've got a lot more research to do, and I think it'll be a long kind of deliberate process.
I'd love to add on to that, because I think this is where, if you were to ask me like where the rubber meets the road on the future of pro golf, and again, if you're not familiar, the professional game is, I would say, in a state of turmoil between competing leagues and a lot of sentiment that's out there about some of these athletes that are just chasing big paydays, and kind of losing the competitive structure of golf. Is again back to what I was saying about steering into that entertainment aspect of the game, to say, I was a huge fan of Drive to Survive, knew nothing about Formula One, watched it on Netflix, and then immediately went to go watch it on television. And I was blown away at the fact that there's no commercials when you watch a race. You are right in the car you hear the engineer and the driver yelling at each other. It was just very raw and authentic. And golf is a very heavily commercialized product. When you go to watch it now on television, there's a lot of commercials. It's really hard to get into the flow of things. It's hard to, I would say it's hard, you know, people would have watched Full Swing, go and tune in and not maybe feel that same excitement from some of the network partners that some of the tours work with. And I got to give a lot of credit to CBS. This was a network that we were very critical of for a long time. I thought their production kind of had gotten stagnant, but back to what Travis was saying, now they are embracing new things, embracing new technologies, embracing ways of interviewing players directly while they're walking out on the course, talking about different things they're encountering, and really investing in their product, giving that is the way you're going to grow the pie that is professional golf, is really retaining that interest from the hardcore fans, which has a fringe way of reaching out to more casual fans. The more people talk positively about the product, the more people are going to want to feel like they're missing out on it. The more they see it in social media when they open up, releasing some maybe old and archaic rules around sharing of highlights. I can't open up my phone now without seeing Major League Baseball highlights, which is a very big contrast from how it was 10 years ago. That's a policy they've either decided to look the other way on or actively change. And that is a way of kind of bringing together all of these natural things, of kind of back to what we were saying about the YouTube thing, bringing together where fans are naturally going and engaging in these kind of alternative media forms. Activating those audiences with their product is where I think golf still has a really long way to go, but that's where a ton of opportunity is. And I've been really encouraged with some of the things I've heard from players after the Strategic Sports Group investment, to say they're going to have a little bit more ownership over, you know, because as I say all this, and I want to place some blame on the PGA Tour, but the same goes to the players, to say, they're like, okay, well, let's try something. You want to wear a microphone for the whole round? No, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, well, you guys now have ownership in this kind of platform, this new structure of the PGA Tour. Let's put this into action. All right, you have some of this ownership. Let's put your money where your mouth is. We're going to mic you up for an entire round. NFL has been doing sounds of the game for how long? They mic up some of the most intense athletes ever in the trenches, and they create a product at the end of it. They place a trust into, you know, the people creating that product, and they come out with something that, you know, not everybody got canceled or the world didn't end because somebody wore a microphone in one of these events. Engaging fans in that way and looking to other sports as to how they've done that is where I really hope golf goes in the next decade.
I actually have a question for both of you on that one. So how do you overcome the traditionalist saying, the walk and talk is like, you can't do that to golf, versus that balance of like catering to a new audience that wants to walk and talk versus the traditionalist saying, oh, this is terrible. Like, why are you doing this to golf?
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, I don't think even the most loyal core fans of golf, like nobody's turned off by greater access to players. I do think to that point, like, and this is where we kind of think about the strategy and the content that's going out on each channel. Like if you think about the broadcast, it is catered to kind of the core golf fan. There's a lot of other platforms with content that I'd say are more casual focused, and so I think it's more of a strategic balance. And when you do bring in kind of these new fans that don't have a deep appreciation for the golf, that maybe don't play the game on course today, you know, maybe the telecast isn't the best place to start with. You should be, you know, we drive them to social or to, you know, different streaming feeds. So I think that's sort of the balance, but I don't think I've yet to hear, like, I don't know, Saul, you can say if you've heard differently, but I've yet to hear a core fan say, like, I don't want to, you know, see players or caddies mic'd up. I think that access and, you know, getting closer to the competition is pretty universally embraced.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did it at CME, and we have ESPN Plus this season as well. And I think it's also, though, back to almost teaching the players too. Like, if you want to be and making as much, especially on our side, of a Travis Kelce, of a Steph Curry, if you want to get to that place, there is some form of authenticity that you have to open up and let people into the day-to-day of your life. We were able to do that this past season with Solheim Cup with our USA team, and just follow them around and do a lot of behind the scenes. And there was definitely that hesitancy, I think, from the players of like, oh, you're going to put something that is going to make me look bad. But like, if you're kind of build that circle of trust, and I think that's one that's very important in golf that hasn't necessarily been there in the past, of like, this is to help everybody. It's the rising tide model. If we can show more about you and how you are working in your sport, what's your craft, and actually like be able to see what you're doing off the course, I think that only behooves everybody wanting to watch on YouTube or social, or actually tune into a full broadcast because you're invested. I think that's the Wrexham story, that's Full Swing, that's all the things with F1. And I think for us, that's something that we're trying to teach too. Like, this is important for the rising tide, and to get us to the place of, again, people knowing who everybody is.
Things have come a long ways in just a couple of years, honestly.
Yeah.
We could have this, I mean, a lot of the things that we've referenced here did not exist as of 3 years ago. And Full Swing is exactly what pro golf should be doing. There should be something, more investment on the women's side into that. There should be, I mean, the way that I've really enjoyed the Netflix series Breakpoint and how they kind of go between the men's and women's game in that. And I would like to see golf go down that same route as well. But I mean, some of the walk and talks, again, that started beginning of last year, right? And these conversations just have really come along really recently. So we haven't seen the fruits of that labor, you know, just yet. There's been some other distracting stuff that's happening as well in other areas of pro golf. But there is some momentum. There does seem to be some buy-in. It just takes time. All this stuff always takes time, especially in golf. It seems to move a little slower than a lot of other sports.
So switching gears a little bit, I'll start with you, Krista. The LPGA is incredibly international, and you've seen a lot of success in Asia. I'm wondering, part one, how you guys have kind of started with that to make a more global tour. And then I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts, just kind of, Rory has mentioned more of an international tour, and what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think 30% of our current active tour is from Asia. And I think the investment, we're actually in China this weekend. If you want to tune in at like 12 a.m. stateside Eastern this weekend, it should be really exciting. Celine's playing out of her mind, so that's exciting. But I think just the investment from a partnership perspective, and we go twice to Asia here in kind of the winter area and then back in the fall. I think the stat was that I think there's 1 million people, women, Korean women, that identify themselves as golfers, whether that's you know, not professional but active and engaged in the game. And that certainly is a space for us to be able to kind of hone a different type of fandom. If you guys haven't seen, the retail there in the golf space is incredible, and I think there's certainly some really exciting partners. One, Toomey, that's both across the PGA and LPGA that we recently announced. Malvin, Adidas, I mean, Callaway, the collections that they're coming out with and the style that's so different from stateside, I think is one, again, just to hone in on, both from a partnership perspective, but also kind of pop culture relevance. It's so important. Our golfers there are treated like celebrities, and there's just an experience there that you can't explain. That's so incredibly different from how it is stateside. So I got to go this past year for the first time, and it was incredible. And I highly recommend, if you can ever go to an LPGA event abroad, it's incredibly unique, and I think we'll continue to hone in there, especially on our media rights. I think that's up 50% since COVID. and continue to be able to provide different types of content, different channels across social that are just focused on Thai or Korea or Japan, and really figure out, again, what that global game means for both our players, but also for our fans.
On the backside, I went to the BMW Ladies Championship in Korea in October of 22. They have fan clubs for the women's golfers there. Yeah. Like, if you are a fan of SH Park, you are not a fan of Hugh Joo Kim. Like, you follow that person around.
Scarves and everything.
And I got brought into a fan group. They were giving me treats. They were giving me like little hats and things to wear. It was awesome. It was a really unique way of have a look into how a different culture approaches the fandom of women's golf in particular. But you know, the talk of all the international golf and the global golf tour it's really interesting, because what I've seen in my time is the status quo almost always wins out in some way in pro golf. Pro golf looks the way it does because it's kind of how it was done the year before and how it's done the year before. There's small evolutions in there, but the fight to change things is very real. We've seen some small changes in men's professional golf where some of the field sizes of some of the events has gotten limited in an attempt to kind of consolidate the product, make it a little bit more entertaining for television, but the bottom half of the field do not get an opportunity to play in it. That's a big fight, you know, that has to come. There's some political capital that needs to be exchanged in some way to be able to do that, and how the structure of the tour works and all that to say. It would make a lot more sense for men's professional golf to go to other locations, yet at the same time, there's a lot of American corporations that are willing to put up the money to sponsor these events. And you know, if Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth can roll out of bed and play for $20 million, it becomes, how much do you need to pay for a purse to get them to go to Australia to play? But if I'm answering the question, should there be a major professional golf event in Australia? There absolutely should be. But merging those two things and make it work is a job I'm very happy to be on the commentary side, because it's super easy to sit here and say you should do this. Executing all of that is obviously a massive challenge, but we're going to see some kind of major change on the men's side in professional golf in the very near future, I would think, into how it's going to look. It's not going to look how it does now. I don't know when that's going to be, 2-3 years, but it's going to be very different. I'm definitely out of the business of predicting what that's going to look like, because it's my opinion on that changes every week.
And I don't think I could predict either, but I think echoing sort of what you say, I would like to see the tour certainly take a bigger global position, maybe have a few more events internationally, but to Solly's point, it is a very nuanced situation. Like, you know, golf is a pretty niche sport in the US, but 40% of the on-course golfers in the world are in the US, so the other 60% are spread across a very big world. And you go to even markets like the UK and golf is popular, but you've still got, you know, racing and soccer and rugby and, you know, several sports kind of above it on the popularity scale. You go to Asia, you know, the Korean market, women's golf kind of dominates already. Japan, it's still a very elitist sport. You know, a $500 or $600 driver here will cost you like equivalent of $1,200 there. You go to Australia, and it's, you know, love Australian fans, very passionate, you know, some of the most passionate golf fans, but the Australian media market is about 4% of the size of the US. So again, you have to balance like all these things, the commercial realities, and then you layer on the logistics of trying to get, you know, the top players to travel around the world. And it's not there's no like easy solve. And I think, you know, for us, like, protecting the U.S. market first and foremost is priority number one.
Well, we have the Ryder Cup, so we're good. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was just going to ask you as our final question before we get into the questions we've received. You have your Ryder Cup sweater on here today, or sweatshirt, I should say.
Branding for Bethpage.
Can you talk, well, first we'll say PGA Tour and PGA of America, separate entities, don't get that confused. But can you talk a little bit about Solheim Cup, Ryder Cup, and why that's so exciting and fun for golf fans?
Totally. First of all, we're a mission-based organization. You're absolutely right, Claire. Like the PGA Tour and the PGA of America are partners, but we're totally separate entities. We do have the word PGA in it, so it kind of adds to the confusion. We're a mission-based organization. We serve our members, 30,000 members that really work in the golf industry and work in growing the game. Our officers say, you know, the tour players play for millions, we get millions to play. Sort of that's like the comparison. So literally growing the game is the second part of our mission. PGA Championship, Solheim Cup, Ryder Cup, KPMG Women's, those are our big commercial assets. That's how to sort of fund the organization. PGA Championship obviously is a major. Carrie Haig, our Chief Championships Officer, does a fantastic job of setting up the course. At the end of the day, you guys all know the product has to be captivating, and we feel like Carrie is like the best at it, setting up the course, and we've kind of seen that. The Ryder Cup is, you know, Team USA, Team Europe, Solheim Cup, same thing. It's every 2 years. They're not playing for money. They're literally playing for pride, and it's bananas. And it's going to be in New York in 2025, and really excited for that. And our KPMG Women's, you know, Sally kind of touched it. If you haven't had a chance to go to a women's event, please go. Like, the players are so close to you. They're so engaging. The amount of girl dads you see there is fantastic, and it's incredible. So those are sort of the three commercial assets that we have, and we serve our mission of our members and growing the game.
Sully, I'll start with you for this one because we were discussing this. The term growing the game sometimes in our sport seems to get just kind of tossed around. I'd love to hear what that means to all of you and kind of how you think that we can go about it.
Well, in recent years, it's a term that's been thrown around by some people that have accepted $100 million+ deals to go join a rival golf league in order to grow the game, which I think the money probably had you know, it's become a bit of a mocking term because we've seen that thrown around a lot. And I hear it a lot, and I'm always careful to address this one because I'm aware of the privileged position I come from. My dad introduced me to golf when I was 8 years old, and I don't ever want to be accused of gatekeeping the entry points. I think it can be it can be just a term that kind of blankets a lot of stuff, and a lot of people say it without actually taking action on the things that will grow the game, right? And there is a ton of great organizations that have done exactly what I would suggest doing, which is like the First Tee and Youth on Course, which are, you know, those are foundations and whatnot that are set up to help subsidize and help get getting golf clubs into kids' hands when they're young. Because that's the impact it's had on me was, again, if I had never played the game and I was 37 years old now and went to go pick it up, I'd be really intimidated. I'd have to spend years practicing on my own before I felt comfortable getting in front of other people. So the game, it's also come a really long way in terms of the networks and the foundations that are set up to put clubs in kids' hands, subsidize the game, and because that is just a massive barrier to entry. You know, and I look back at the places I learned to grow the game, where I learned to play the game, was a little 9-hole course that was near me, and that's a housing development now. The 18-hole course, which is a little farther away that I graduated to, that's a housing development now. The course that I ended up working at, you know, to really kind of, in my teenage years, really kind of grow the foundation of my game, that's a housing development now. So there's a lot of challenges that come with, again, this green grass golf that I look at. And I look at also what's happening with the professional golf scene. I was a big golf fan because there was a PGA Tour event in my town that I went to every year, and I just ate up every second of it. And I would hate if there's kids out there that are turned off by all this talk in pro golf about money that aren't going to have opportunities to go to events near them. Like the trickle-down effect of that, which may take decades, is something that I'm a little worried about with the game. There's a massive almost. I almost compare what's going on in golf right now to like the strike of 1994 in baseball, of like it punched a hole in the ship and it took a long time to really repair that. And I'm just a little worried. Everyone kind of, again, everyone that plays golf looks to the pro game in some way, and you're not getting a lot of strong messaging from that right now from a lot of the athletes that are choosing to make some of these decisions and fight and bicker over millions. It's just not what fans want to hear. So that's a convoluted answer. I could talk about this topic for a long time, but a lot goes through my mind when I talk about, you know, and when you think about growing the game of golf.
Awesome. Yeah. We have a question about amateur golf and how fans of the amateur game can kind of translate to the professional game. Rose Zane comes to mind, who just absolutely crushed that transition, but it's a hard one. So I'm wondering if any of you have thoughts on amateur golf over to professional golf.
I mean, I think for us at least, we have pros and AMs across the world, and I think the investment, at least from the LPGA, in those incredible people, and I think that goes back to what the growing of the game is, the investment of just having people involved in the sport, I think is incredibly important. The Rose thing is very interesting in that she currently is balancing going to Stanford and playing golf and trying, you know, from her age to become the best women's golfer in the world. And I think that's such an interesting balance as a person to be able to manage all those things. I think going back to also growing the game for us, it's very much about like the equity and being able to pay to play. I mean, a lot of our athletes aren't making the same amount as aforementioned tournament group, and you know, I think PGA players even, and I think that's also very important for us to be able to say we can health insurance and travel and the balance of schedule, so you can also do all the things that Rose is doing at school, but also be able to, you know, play as much as she is. Those for us, I think, are incredibly important investments, both from a time and money and people standpoint, that at least the LPGA has significantly increased investment in over the last couple seasons.
And the PGA Tour, to piggyback on that, we've created over the last couple of years a direct pathway for the top amateurs to qualify and play on the PGA Tour. It used to be where if you were a top collegiate player, you had to try to get a sponsor's exemption and then play well enough to get into, you know, the next series of events. And now we've created that kind of direct pathway. And in fact, we had an amateur win a PGA Tour tournament earlier this year. So those top collegiate golfers are incredible, and they're ready to, you know, the development at this point in time has become so that these guys are ready to just jump on the tour and compete right away and try to win. So we've certainly encouraged that kind of link more directly from amateur to professional.
You turned pro real quick.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, a lot of tournaments on the PGA Tour are doing a great job too of using, so if you're not familiar, when you sponsor a tournament, you're given a couple exemptions you can use however you want. And a lot of them will use them on top college players in the hopes that the Travelers Championship has done this for a long time, of giving an exemption to a young amateur, Patrick Cantlay. He ended up shooting 60 in that event, and the hope is to earn the goodwill of that player to, when they are professional for 10, 15 years, they return to that event for, you know, kind of investing into the future of your events. And we've seen the Waste Management Phoenix Open is famous for doing that as well. John Rahm, I think, played in that as an amateur. And it's a good, there's something about that thrill, even for casual fans. When you tune in and you see that leaderboard in the corner and you see that A in the parentheses, it is so fascinating to watch, especially in major championships, to watch if an amateur golfer can hold their own against professionals. And to see it actually happen for the first time in like 30 years, I think, this past year was just incredible.
Fahad, this might be an interesting one for you. We were just talking about the Ryder Cup and the Solheim Cup. How do you think different golf formats, match play, those team events can be utilized to help drive more interest in the game?
Well, I think you see it, right? Like, I think we take a look at team golf. That's a huge thing for us. And it's part of our mission is encouraging people and making more of a team thing as more individualistic. The Ryder Cup is a total team format. And it's got like 4 different formats throughout the week, right? So that's different. It's engaging. You got the world's best players playing team golf against European best players team golf, and it's all for national pride. So we do I think that's like the catalyst there for a different format in golf. I'll allude to what you guys are doing with the match. That's awesome, right? Just getting people mic'd up. It's like 10 holes, something creative, right? I think those are sort of things that push general audiences over. So I would say from a PGA of America perspective, taking on the Ryder Cup and that format, and then bringing it down to team golf within our association and local communities, that's great. I mean, I can't tell you how many local, like we're based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, how many local Ryder Cups we had during Ryder Cup week. Like amateurs kind of just getting together and, you know, team black versus blue, whatever. So it's been cool.
Have you mentioned the PGA Junior League yet as well? That might be something to
Yeah,
bring
absolutely.
up as well.
PGA Junior League is also team golf. It's a youth program that we run, and it's really to get young kids involved. And ESPN airs it, the Junior League. It's like starts with your local area, then regionals, and then you have the finals. And again, it's team golf, ages 12 through 16. Gary Wong's in here. He's going to kill me for getting the wrong age. But it's really competitive for kids and juniors. And then ESPN will telecast it in Frisco, at PGA Frisco every year, but it switched over to Frisco this year. And it's a live telecast. And these kids get to showcase team golf on live broadcast on ESPN, which is fantastic. And it's so fun to go there because they're just kids, they're amped up, they're throwing bottles, you know, when someone sticks a putt, it's great.
And at the local level, I know both my kids played in, and it's such a great kind of entry point for kids. You know, they have jerseys, and they're playing as part of a team, so there isn't this kind of individual pressure and the intimidation that, you know, a lot of kids would have taking up golf. So I, you know, from firsthand experience can say what a great kind of program it is.
This is an interesting one. It seems like many younger golf fans are introduced to golf through their parents. Have we seen a growth in youth interest, and how much of it can be thanks to the social media, kind of what we were talking about, and golf content creation, maybe YouTube?
I can start. Yeah, definitely. You know, we've seen, seen a huge growth in kind of audience, and again, with the youth movement, and you know, I think there are like 2 million kids that have taken up golf in the last year just on course alone. So that kind of link in introducing kids to the game at a young age, just getting a club in hand, generally leads to fandom and interest in the professional game. And again, like as you mentioned, like the way those kids kind of consume the sport is very, very different than older generations. So, you know, it's not that we would expect them to sit in front of a TV set and watch a 3-hour telecast, but they're absolutely engaging on social. They're watching, you know, 10-minute highlight recaps of each round. So we've definitely seen a boom in kind of the younger side of the fandom scale.
I will say too, the girl dad is a real thing, and I love seeing there's been a ton of stories as of late of just dads bringing out their daughters, and you know, again, just having that be something that connects them, that is just, again, different. I think I wish I'd had that with my dad, just in that we didn't grow up, the girls didn't play golf where I was from. We all played tennis, or soccer, and I think that is just, again, a really fun family activity now too, that you can actually go out together and just play 9 holes and just have fun, which is, again, a new take on it that I don't think has ever been there before.
We have a question about Tiger Woods. His playing career may or may not be starting to be winding down. What do you all see his role being with growing the game, or just in the game going forward? And maybe as all these players that adults grew up with now kind of being senior tour age.
It's a very interesting question. We have a long-running kind of joke we've had where we call this thing, it's called the Tiger tax. And it's if you really went in and calculated how much money Tiger Woods has brought into the game of golf and put into the wallets of other players. Like, the joke is that, you know, Vijay Singh may need to tithe $50 million to Tiger Woods because he earned that much more money on the golf course. And yet at the same time, you know, it's not, Tiger Woods provided this whole platform that for so many people. And that's been a frustrating part for me as a golf fan, to watch people that, examples, John Rahm, Cameron Smith, Dustin Johnson, that have made a ton of money playing the PGA Tour and have been given this incredible platform, to leave that, to make that competitive structure weaker, this platform that was given to them basically through the development of Tiger Woods, to leave that structure, to hurt that product in chase of more money, has been really frustrating as a sports fan that wants to watch all the best athletes compete. And Tiger has firmly put his camp into the PGA Tour. He's taken now a seat on the board and a leadership position to help see the tour through, be a representative of the players, to help see the remaining group through this SSG investment that's gone into it, and whatever the future structure looks like, it's going to come with approval from Tiger Woods, which was not there before. He's kind of, he's not been a board member, I don't think, through any of his part of his career up until now. So I do think he cares about kind of leaving the PGA Tour and better than he found it, and he's already given so much to it. But he's now involved in it, and whatever happens going forward is going to have his final sign-off on. And I find that it to be extremely interesting and powerful, and I don't know what that necessarily means as of now, but it's interesting to see him kind of dive in and say, this is something I really care about and I want to see through to fruition.
All right. This will be our last one, but what is the evaluation of alternate streams as a way to grow golf fandom? Maybe looking at Manningcast as an example.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful opportunity. I mean, you think about just all the different types of fans that engage with golf content. You know, you could easily see, like you said, like more of an alternate talent side of things, where it's maybe appealing to a different audience, and it maybe isn't, focused on kind of the core golf fan, but how do you, introduce feeds that are more targeted towards casual fans? You think about betting, you think about, all the people that are interested in more statistics. Like, there's really no end to kind of the way you can start to slice the product and give these like customized experiences to different segments of fans. So You already see a little bit of that on ESPN Plus. We'll have, for the Players Championship, for example, like we'll have every single shot live. So, 52 different streams on Thursday and Friday, and really giving fans the opportunity to watch whoever they want, whenever they want. And I think you'll just continue to see more of that, whether it's, alternate forms of talent or just different delivery to appeal to different segments.
Yeah, we did that with the PGA Championship starting last year, maybe a couple years ago. We had an alternate cast and it worked with Joe Buck. And it's fun, like the NFL does it, right? Like the Super Bowl has a Nickelodeon cast. Like how cool is that to engage younger audiences? And golf is on its way, I think, like with an alternate cast, and like we're going to try to do one again this year and have guests on. And what the Manning brothers have done with Omaha Productions and Monday Night Football, it's cool, right? Like it's engaging a whole set of new audience. So yeah, just golf needs to continue to embrace those new things and grow. That's a fun way of growing the game, right?
We were lucky enough. We actually got to do one of them on ESPN2 last year for the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be on ESPN The Ocho, but they put us on ESPN2. I mean, I was amazed, but it was a huge step. I was amazed at how they were basically like, yep, just do whatever you want with it. There was no instruction of here's how you should do this. Like we did a test filming, and they like, we loved your guys' chemistry. Just go do your thing. And we're like, all right, you asked for it. But we got a lot of great feedback from that, and it was kind of what we were talking about earlier of merging. Where kind of some of these weird alternative media interest is coming from, merging that with existing products as an entry point for fans is, you can't do enough of that stuff. I mean, people are going to soak it up and eat it and want different options on how they watch things. And we had a great time doing it, and I'm hoping to get to do it again. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for this discussion, and thank you for everyone who came and listened. This was great.
Thank you. Picture.